And
looks like we're live.
We're live. All right, everybody. Helly. It's been 3 weeks. It's like we're a little rusty around here.
You're the little rusty.
Yes, indeed.
I am. So, season 4, episode 6. Thanks for everybody for joining us again.
Let's see. Do we have anybody in tonight? No?
Usually the comments start coming in a little bit after they're said, but we'd have to see. Looks like we have some people on at the moment. Feel free to say hello, folks.
Hello, folks.
So, how are things been for you, Rusty?
Oh, been pretty quiet. Not much going on. I spent the last 2 weeks, or actually about a week, putting my metal shed, finally getting everything completed with that after my sheds got squished by that derecho storm that hit.
Right.
So now I'm doing all that and messing with it. So
cool. How much more do you have? How much more do you have? Is that done?
I have the shed together, which is kind of interesting because when you look at it, it's like I have the shed together. When you're looking at something that's a 2-man job for most of it, and you're doing it by yourself, makes it a little hard. Takes a little longer. Because the last one I put together was I had my kids helping me out. It's like, all right, I need this done. They go, help me. Now, do we have to do that, Dad? Yes. So I got that. That was a week of all my free time working on that. And then I got that done last Friday, so a week ago tomorrow. So then we did get a game in. We played some Gaslands. Stryker was there. Hey, Mel. We got Dan in the house and Sean. So it was, we started a new season of Gaslands.
Nice.
We'll see how long this season lasts before it goes into a dumpster fire.
Any new contestants this season?
So far, it's just the usual.
The veterans.
The veterans. So, but we're already talking about, or at least Mel and I are talking about getting into new games into the rotation.
Oh yeah. So
yeah.
Which games are you thinking about?
Well, both Mel and I want to play some American Civil War because Mel has a ton. We're talking a ton of 15 mil Civil War miniatures. I have all the American War of Independence 28s, so we could play games of that if we wanted to. So it's like, yeah, we're wanting to get back out and expand. We've got dystopian wars we could play, and because since June or July we've been playing Gaslands almost nonstop.
You have many dystopian wars miniatures?
Maybe. Way too many.
How about have you been doing? I've been seeing some of your painting updates. Did you want to show anything today, or do you have anything you want to show?
If you're on my channel, obviously you've seen these guys today. Let me expand this out a second. All right. You can see I have my BattleTech miniatures and a couple tanks I finished up. So I got those.
Those are second founding Ultramarine BattleTech miniatures.
Yes.
Right?
So a couple Panzer IVs. And then I have some Lyrian Guards. I'm calling them the 22nd Lyrian Guard wolves, white wolves.
Cool.
So that is what they are.
Nice.
So a few of them. So if you watch my video I put out today, you'll see this. And this miniature right here, this guy, it's like he's one of those ones that's like got assembled 20-something years ago, and he finally got finished painted, which is interesting when it comes to BattleTech miniatures. It don't take me that long to finish a BattleTech miniature. And I'll just show this off a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
So with this axe. So I've been working on this guy. Today I decided just to work on him because I finished up the Battletech stuff. I was gonna. Next thing you know, it's like 6 hours later.
That's cool.
Got a lot
Really
of work
nice.
done on him.
That would be a young miniature, right?
Yes. And you got the shielded on his back. It goes on his back like that.
Very cool.
So that is what I've been working on. So that's the plan. Put him over here out of the way. So I figure maybe another 3-4 hours of work on him and he'll be done.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that's going to be, I got to work on the base. I have to go out and get some really thin stain will bring out the wood work so I can put it on this wood plaque.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So is that a cover band that does Quadrophenia on your shirt? The Who.
Who? I was like rocking out to some Who music the last couple days.
Uh-huh. The one on your shirt or the other one?
My shirt.
Okay.
I was going full Mongolian.
There you go.
Which is interesting. It was about a year. I think it was a year ago on the 30th. We went to the Who concert. So, so a couple.
The
days
one on the
ago.
shirt.
What?
The one on the shirt.
Yes.
Right.
So the other Who, not the with this Who.
Right. How about your musty drink for tonight? Do you have one?
Yep. Monkey shoulder.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Scotch. And we'll get around to getting that going here in a second. So what have you been up to?
Well, you know, I have a little bit of a table update I can show. What I'll probably do is actually also do my musty drink first, just to get it off the table while I'm showing it. But there you go. I've got Weiser's Deluxe, which Canadian rye I do like. I really like Weiser. It's not really an expensive whiskey, but I really quite like it. And I have family that like the Canadian Crown Royal and you know stuff like that. Like I have family members down in the U.S. that love it. I've never been a huge fan of Crown Royal. It's just not my personal favorite. Even though it's a lot more expensive than this, I actually kind of like this one just for my taste. And so
the Crown Royal, the rye, their Northern Rye, I preferred that one the most of the Crown Royals.
Well, it's got a huge following, and I'm not nothing for nothing. Everybody's got their own taste. I've just kind of like this one, and despite that, I'm doing something that usually you don't do with whiskey you like, and I'm just in the mood for a rye and Coke tonight. So I've never done that before, mixed drink on the show, but I'm doing a little bit of a rye and Coke this evening, and it will likely transition to straight rye, knowing the way we go. And so that's what I'm starting with.
I almost thought about making a Long Island iced tea. So.
Yeah. Looks like David, who I believe is also from Calgary, if I remember correct, just said that he likes Weiser's Deluxe over Crown Royal as well. Have you ever tried Seagram's 83? And I haven't. So maybe I should try that. Or if that's what you're saying, if it's good, I should probably try that. So we've mentioned Battletech at least once, and so I'll have to do the customary.
Cheers.
Cheers. Now, I'm going to switch cameras to show you guys what I've been working on, and I'm going to turn on this blazing light here to do that. All right. So right now, I am working on my Shaggoth, the last miniature for our Musty challenge, Warhammer Fantasy or Oldhammer. Today, I kind of rusted up his axe, and I also did another round of highlighting on some accents on his skin. I'm trying to do him very dark as compared to the comparison miniature, the giant I'll show here next to him in a second. So, yeah, he looks dark, I believe, you know. But I'm really happy with the way he's coming out so far.
Looking good. I like the rust effects there.
Yeah, I do have to tone down this bronze, Dwarven bronze that I'm using. And this is coat to arms, so this is sort of kind of like some of the old Citadel metallics, but this is the Dwarven bronze. It stands out really nice, but I am going to tone it down a bit with some washes and stuff before I'm finished.
Yeah.
And
I always put Reichland flesh on my bronze first.
Yeah, it does help. And yeah, I'm getting some shadows here, but if I kind of just turn them up a bit, you can see I really like the guy's face. I don't know how well you can see him there, but he just looks really sinister, you know?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I really always wanted to paint this model, so I'm really quite happy with this.
So how does he compare to Captain Marvel in size?
Oh, good question. Captain Marvel's flying, right? So she's not like on the ground, but you know, he's pretty tall. I mean, I'll show. I mean, well, I think you saw him next to the giant too, but I'm not sure what else I have handy. I always have old Beastmen here that I'm collecting handy. I could show them next. That's probably a better comparison.
There we go.
You know, this is the guy, the kind of guy
that's going to be leading.
Sorry?
3 times the height of the Beastmen.
Yeah, like this is actually not a 28 mil model.
They're like 32s, aren't they?
Yeah, something like that. I think you're right. To be honest, I used to know. I don't even think I know anymore, but I know they're more than 28 mil. But then I have, you know, I used my painting style for the skin. It came out totally different, which I'm happy with because I didn't want it to be the same. But I kind of was doing some similar ideas to my giant in some ways, but I used the different base colors for the giant in the way I did the skin. But yeah, this is my completed giant for the challenge. And yeah, and so he's a lot darker, but on video, I think it'll see up close just some of the detail a little better. Like there is a lot of detail to still show.
Half ogre, half black dragon.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted him to be kind of evil looking. And let me see here if I can focus in a bit better. There we go. I wanted him to be a bit fairly evil looking and not too bright and cheery. And I think I'm achieving it. So yeah, so that's kind of what I've been up to painting wise. I'll switch cameras here. Gaming, haven't really been doing much, you know, for the same reasons most people haven't. I am planning on doing another battle report solo game with Sharps Practice, French Indian War stuff. And I'll be moving to be doing some French Indian War pretty much right after this. I'm going to finish Captain Marvel and then do some French Indian War. And I'm really looking forward to that, getting back to that. So, let's see here. All right.
And we're all caught up. You guys live on the same street. You know, Calgary's such a small place.
It's funny. It used to be Fort Calgary a long time ago. You know, like, well, 100 years ago. There was a time when Calgary was here as a fort, but Alberta didn't exist, you know, as a province. And at least as my understanding of the history. And if you look at some of the old photos, it was just a main strip. You know, like a lot of cities, like, you know, you can see like the old photos with the horse and the carriages going through and stuff. It's kind of cool.
Well, just like used to be a Fort Des Moines. Yeah, Des Moines was a military outpost at one time on the frontier.
Yep.
At the confluence of the Raccoon and Des Moines River.
So what do you say? Shall we get to our first topic of the evening?
We can do that. We have two. Let's see. Which one should we go first? We can go.
Well, let's do them in order that we put on the show thing. How about we do the one that's more about
reviews?
Oh, it was the other, but we could do the review first. It was I think the painting the miniature. When does it finish? But we could do the review, whichever one.
Well, here we got a quick question. What's your local friendly game store?
You named it. If I ever do game down at the store, and I haven't been in a long time, but I have sometimes, it's definitely at the Sentry Box. So that's where I would go. But as you know, it's a huge place. It's been a long time since I've been a regular on Saturdays, but I used to go on Sundays and then over to Saturdays for years, but then it's been years since I've done it. There was a time when it got really busy with card games and all kinds of stuff, and I could never get a table, and a lot of my gaming buddies just kind of moved to basements across the city. But I still occasionally go down and I play some Saga, and even sometimes during the week, if I happen to have a random day off during the week, over at Sentry Box.
Yeah, it's like our local one. Scott's in the house.
Hello, Scott.
Our local shop, you can go over like from, let's say, 10 till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you'd probably be about the only ones there. And then about 4:30 to 5, all of a sudden they start trickling in, and then you have 1,000 card game players show up.
It's kind of nice sometimes. This is my my social awkwardness component coming out, but it's kind of nice going in the afternoon when like there's nobody around. Like it's this huge place. Yeah,
like you can have a game. I can film if I wanted to. You know, a lot of the games we ever played, you know, like was doing bat reps from. It's like you could have it during the day at the shop, and there's nobody around, and all of a sudden. It's like, well, you got to get it done just in time because the people are rolling in. And next thing you know, you can't even hear yourself talk because it's so loud. Weekdays, back when we could game. Yeah.
Well, Sentry Boxes, for those that don't know it, is a huge place. It's 2 floors, and the whole top mezzanine is gaming pretty much. And it's just a tremendous amount of space. So it is a nice place. And for them to be filled up, like I was talking about on weekends, it's, you know, you've got like probably 100 people. I mean, it's a lot, you know, at least 75. I mean, like it's quite a lot.
I've seen videos of people playing there before from other channels over the years.
Yep.
All right, shall we get into our topic of the night?
Sounds good.
Right. Which one?
Let's do the miniature one. So I'll throw it out there. This one I came up with, and you kind of came up with the other one. So I guess I'll introduce this one officially, and then you respond first. So when is a miniature or project completed in your eyes? When is done? When is done in your mind?
In mine, well, when I think it's done. Okay, next topic. No, it's one of those things where
3 colors.
3 colors. 1, 2, 3. Just like the owl. 3 bites to get to the center of the miniature top. It's one of those things where sometimes when I consider a project done or a miniature's done, when I just get tired of working on it. Or that to be the simplest way to look at it. There's been many times where it's like if you have a miniature, it's like that bust I've been working on. There's sometimes you don't want to stop working on it. It's like you keep looking, oh, I got a little detail I can do here, a little detail there, I can add a little bit there or this here. And you just keep going at it. There's other times it's like these BattleTech miniatures over here, and it's like I've been working on them, and it's like I want them done, and they're good. That's it. They're done. And it's like you get to the point where it's like they're good enough from across the table or the 3-foot rule, and they're just BattleTech miniatures. Moving on, type of thing. That's the simple answer at the moment.
How about like, because we said projects too, like how would you rationalize that with terrain, you know, things like that?
Well, terrain, the simple thing to go at it is the nice thing about a lot of terrain, if you want, it's like buildings and stuff, a lot of it's battle damage, so it can look sloppy, messy, busted up type thing. And you don't have to necessarily go make it look like the Mona Lisa, you know, or anything.
Or a diorama.
Yeah.
Like, because like sometimes with dioramas, like you can make terrain into something that should never have miniatures in it, right? Because they'll just kind of, by moving them around, and it'll just rip it all apart. Yeah. And so sometimes it's tough to know how far you want to go with the setting, without also destroying it as part of the process.
Yeah, it's like David here. He's a good example right here. Setting a painting goal, achieve the painting goal, move on to the next one. And it's like when it comes to projects, if you're like, say, a commission painter, it's like your customer has a level what they want, and then there's a level of what you think it should be. Mm-hmm. And it's like, obviously most of the time the customers want something huge, glorious, or everything, but it's like, you're paying this much and this is what you're gonna get. So type of deal.
And for commissions, that's a totally different question in some ways, because it's actually you're not necessarily only painting to your standard. You're actually painting to the customer standard that they paid for. So that almost dictates when you're done, right?
Yes.
But when it's you, I guess that's a different question, because could be variable, because you could end up theoretically painting something less than what you would do for a customer, because you're fine with it and for your purpose, with what you want to do with it, like for a particular project. But then a customer is actually paying you to go maybe a couple steps further or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's like when you got a customer, it's like they have to be happy for what you put out. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that means a little bit extra along the line to make them happy. And when you show them, like, hey, this is what this looks like, and you're like, give them a lot of pictures, and they're going, ooh, that's good, type of deal. And Lord is in the house.
Hey, Brad.
So when you're looking at your own stuff, a good example is like, I'm looking at those BattleTech miniatures. They're made of resin because they're 3D printed. And when I was cleaning them up, it got to the point where I just looked at them and said, this is enough cleaning. It's like, I'm tired of scraping and trying to shave and make it smoother surface, because they had little bumps on them, type of deal. Mm-hmm. It was kind of almost like rejects that came out. And it was like, hey, you can have these, type of deal. It's like, I'll use them. I'll make the best of them and try to make them look good. But you get to the point where you say, hey, that's enough work on the cleanup, and I don't want to spend 90 hours cleaning something that's only going to sit on the table for me, where I can just like put some paint on them and cover that up enough to make myself happy.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
One simply does not walk into Gondor. So working on some Gondor. That's an open-ended question. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question, and I would say that it's changed over time in some ways, right? Like when I first started getting into painting again, it was just, let me do what everybody tells me I should do, and that is just, I get my base paint on, like I'm trying to remember, but I think I would wash next, which oftentimes I don't do now, always. And then I would kind of highlight after that wash, like with like dry brush or something, and then I'd be done, and that would be just done as when like certain steps are completed, that I'm supposed to do. And that was even before I was trying to make things pop even more. And I didn't even know how necessarily, some things went really bad. I would say now, I find how long I take oftentimes as to how long I spend glazing, very specifically. And that is because, not necessarily as much with the comic style miniatures, that I've been doing recently, but with a lot of, when I do historical miniatures or when I'm not painting non-comic style for fantasy and sci-fi, I tend to use a lot of glazing to try to make a difference, like on the miniature. And it just so happens I bring it up because it can be a very long process, putting very thin amounts of glazing and highlighting and beating it down with filters and then bringing it back up. And if I'm doing, even with like my British, which I'm really quite happy with, my French, Indian War British, I would probably do no more than 1 or 2 kind of glazes to try to make it pop a bit and a little more natural, and the reds like popping out, and then I'm done. Like, you know, and so I would get all the base paint on, and I would try to do like a little bit of highlighting through, you know, some glazing, just 1 or 2 steps, and then I'm done. Because you have to basically, when you're doing, like in that case, I was doing like 40 miniatures at the same time, you know, and there's only, you have to kind of set limits to a certain degree, unless like you want to make this your year project, you know, like, you know, like you eventually have to finish it. And I'm quite happy with the way they came out. But then if I'm working like right now, where I'm working on this Shagath, I may do at least 3 sort of sessions of bringing up the colors and then bringing them back down and bringing them back up, like, you know, and trying to create that gradual transition, but then still have some areas that pop in the end without covering them too much. And so that can take like 3 or 4 times. Now it's just 1 miniature. And so it's your character models, what a lot of people say is like, and things that really mean a lot to you, you might spend more time on. I did a young miniature like you have there, Rusty, and like if it's just for display, then I'm gonna continue at it until I'm kind of happy with it. And
yeah,
I'll be honest, it's not because like I'm not at all like a perfectionist. In some ways, I sometimes I don't catch things until I put them on video, mistakes that I make, you know, like, and also I will oftentimes worry that there's certain things that I'm just rushing through, like I'm glazing all the skin, but like that handle on the axe, like I'm not doing anything with, you know, and so like so sometimes I just, you know, what's done is just, I'm like you said, I feel like I've spent enough time on this, and like I've kind of done what I want to do with it. I'm just putting it down now, as long as I've achieved certain things that I wanted to do. And so every miniature and every project's a little bit different, you know, as to how it's like skirmish games. You're obviously, if you have a little gang of 8 miniatures and that's all you're working on, you might want to, and those are what you're going to play with the whole time in the game, you might want to spend a lot more time on them. In the same way, they're almost like mini character models, you know, in that sense, if you're playing like a skirmish game. So I might do that too. But yeah, I mean, I think that's really the only way I can really answer it. I mean, with terrain, it really depends on the piece too. Like I spent a lot of time on that Twilight house, engineer house. And I was thinking to myself, I still haven't used it yet. I need to use that because I spent so much time on it. But then, like, if I'm just doing like trees and I'm making my own tree board or something, I'll like spend some time on the ground and stuff. But really, I see it as just very functional. Like, it just needs to be functional. And to a certain degree, I spend more time on making sure that I'm using epoxy sculpt and things that are durable. So, like, when I put it out there, it doesn't get all beat up. And it's not so much about spending like a tremendous amount of time on like some sort of diorama.
Yeah, it's like when you're looking at certain miniatures, like say rank and file, you know, if they're just basically going to be, you know, ranked up, a lot of times I'll probably just do the bare minimum to make them look nice and call it good. And but the standard bearer, the, you know, the hero that's going to be in the unit or something of that nature, or the officer, that's going to be a little more work on it. It's going to, you know, a little more flashier, because obviously the officer in the unit is going to look a little more flashier because they're, you know, that's the leader of the unit. You know, he may be a lord or some hero type or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And your centerpiece, you know, like your Shagath there, I'd be more than willing to spend a lot of time on something that's big like that, because it's going to be attracting attention.
Right.
And its whole purpose is to attract attention. You want it to look nice. And it's like, hey, that's really cool looking. They're like, oh, that's so mesmerizing. You focus on the big monster, you know, ignore all my other stuff, you know. The psychological warfare too.
Yeah.
So that is, you know, part of it. The big models, when you're looking at huge ones, I'm going to spend more time on them because I want them to look really good. And then you did bring up, you know, when I was playing, not Blood Bowl, what's the other football one? that came out that was like Blood Bowl.
Guild Ball, is that the one?
Guild Ball, yeah.
Yeah.
And each one of the players is a named character, so each one had probably 20 hours of work into each one.
Mm-hmm.
So they would look really, really good. So when someone will look at it and they go say, "Oh, that's so cool." And eventually when Guild Ball basically died around here, no one was playing it anymore. It's like, oh, so I turned around and sold them. And it's like the moment I put them up and within hours they were gone off of eBay because people look at them and go, "Oh, that's like, you say you professional painted." And it looks like it's been professionally painted. So people snag it up.
Brad says Dreadball too, in case that's the one you were talking about. That's another one that's kind of like one of those games.
Yeah, Dreadball's the sci-fi one, I think.
Yeah. Actually, some of those miniatures look really cool for Guild Ball. They came up on something on Facebook recently. I was looking at them. I'd never played it before.
Yeah, it was a fun game while it lasted.
You're familiar with Vince Vitrilla's YouTube channel where he does hobby cheating. I think that to a certain degree, hobby cheating can be really helpful, like in a broad sense, to taking like a large number of miniatures and making them pop a bit without actually having to spend too much time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those things that you do, whether it be kind of putting some stark highlights and then using something like Army Painter, the ink, like the tone. It's the quick shade wash, not like the actual quick shade, but even the actual quick shade is another example where you're just basically kind of covering with a filter over some really striking things to make a nice transition series of highlights and shading. Like those things can really help, I think, taking a larger force and just getting like really where you primarily want to get to kind of quickly. And a lot of those hobby cheating techniques, I think, are really technical kind of things that you can do just to get a really good bang for your buck, like based on time and effort and output, like, end result. And so I guess that would be an answer too, that's actually more of just how do you get to where you want to get to, not so much when you think a miniature is done, which is what the topic is. But I think sometimes I do that, like where I'll have a large number of miniatures and rather than spending like forever on one of them, or, when you have 20 or 40 to do, you just pick a couple of techniques that are going to make them look nice in the end, a step above just base paint, and look kind of nice and pop a little bit, but not having to spend so much time.
Yeah, well, when I was doing the American War and Independence, I had those plastic Warlord Games miniatures. There's not really a lot of high detail on them. And to actually make them really pop would take a lot of effort. And I was like, I've got 100 and something of these things I want to get painted. And it's like, I wasn't putting the effort into them that was necessary. It's like, I get out, it's like, oh, I got all the colors on it. It's like, okay, I'll clean up what's on there. It's like, that's good. It's like at a distance, they look awesome. As you hold them up, it's like, not so much. But, it's what I wanted to do.
Right.
I didn't feel like spending 100 hours on 30 miniatures.
But you'd have to paint the detail in that the sculptor didn't put in.
Yeah.
And that actually takes a lot of time.
So, now, when I got those Perry miniatures, those metal ones, it was easy putting detail into them because it was there.
Yeah.
You didn't have to create the detail. You just like paint over. It was like paint by numbers almost, and it created itself. It was like versus, it's like one or the other. It's like you're more than willing to go. It's like, hey, I'm willing to put the effort into these because I spent, this one small unit of cav, these dragoons. The amount I spent on that small unit of dragoons gave me this massive pile of plastics over here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
I guess that's not something that people talk about all the time when they talk about your choice of miniature, as to how one can potentially make you spend a bit more time, in trying to make it pop because maybe the detail is soft or something.
Yeah, definitely. I have to say I haven't tried the Perry miniatures for their American War of Independence. See if their plastics, how they compare to the metal ones. I know how well those are. look.
Yeah.
Because you can just see the details on them. But then you look at the Warlord games; they're soft. They're really soft detail, and they're made for ranked quick. Someone wants to get into a game quickly and cheaply, and if you're willing to not put as much time into it and make them look extravagant by painting the details onto them, they're not bad. So,
yeah. So, we talked about maybe like painting terrain a little bit, but getting back to the terrain piece, because we were talking about projects as far as knowing when they're done, not just miniatures. When you construct terrain from scratch, typically, what is your mindset, as far as like the level of detail and that you like to do and how much effort you put in as far as the building, not the painting, like necessarily?
Well, I'll say the last thing I built was, it was for, there'll be a video coming out on Monday. I built a whole bunch of guardrails I did a video.
For Gaslands?
For Gaslands. It was the amount of time building it. I think I spent more time painting it than I did building it, to be honest. So it was like, I just needed something that was just drop down terrain that will just show that you have a track to keep people corralled into a certain area. So it was something simple and cheap, and that anybody can do if they have access to cardboard and basically any type of knife or scissors to cut the stuff into pieces. So that's coming out here soon. Oh yeah, Dwayne's here.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's fun to spend a little bit of time, but I have some times where I build stuff like really, really basic. I mean, even just like cutting up, like an entryway mat, to make like a field, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or something. Just literally just cutting it in a square and just leaving it that. It's like the right color already from IKEA and just something like that. To doing like when I did that French Indian War cabin, I put some paintings on the walls and like did a couple of things. But then even with that, like I stopped. I didn't put like a lot of furniture or anything in it because, looks like Paul said that he cut his finger with his hobby knife. Not good. Well, I'm hoping that wasn't a Musty Wargamer distraction.
No, it's not bad.
That's the kind of thing. You always let the knife drop when it falls to the floor. You learn the hard way. Never try to catch it.
Just don't drop the very sharp X-Acto into your lap.
Yeah, exactly.
Just exactly.
Yeah. So, there are times when it's fun to put like something like furniture or whatever, but when you're miniature wargaming, like to a certain degree, I used to kind of call it doll housing, in my head. Like it was like in the sense of like, do you really want to get into the doll housing aspect where like you just make your terrain and like your building's so detailed? I guess it's fun if you enjoy that, but if you're going to run your miniatures through it, sometimes it could be really damaging, right? Because it's, they're not meant to be word game through doll houses.
I started watching the Wings. Have you ever watched the show Wings from the early 90s?
I love
that. Ever watched the episode where Lowell built the blimp? I spent 3 years, 2 hours a night building this blimp, and he's like, it goes, floats in, and he's like, wow. And it's like, the toilet's even flush, except for that forward cabin one, which I had to put an out of order sign on it. It's like, I was in there with micro tweezers doing everything. And it's with a microscope building it. And I was like, going to the extreme detail.
Yeah.
And then what's his face? Joel or one of the guys that's in the show. He's playing with it, and it's like floating by the door, and the other guy that has the other.
Is that the one where he opens the door?
Opens the door.
I think I have seen that. Yeah, how could you forget that?
And he's like, no.
Well, that's what happens to your wargaming house when you go too far with the dollhousing, and then somebody drops their beer on it or something.
Or you got the big guy there, and he reaches across the table to reach for a miniature, and it's like stomach goes crushes it. Like, yeah, I've had that happen. So yeah, it's one of those deals where you can put all kinds of details. Like you can go from the far extreme of just micro everything, getting right down to almost it's perfect, or you can just the last project before a couple weeks ago, I built some ramps for Gaslands. I don't know if you've seen one of those in the videos I did where it shows the ramps jumping on, and those are just made out of cardboard also. And then I covered them glued some sand on them to make it look rough and everything.
Right.
And then painted it. So that was something really quick and easy. So not a lot of detail went into it. Just I wanted something fast, quick to get it done. Now, the last project I really spent a lot of time working on was the hills. Actually got out, had the inch thick pink foam.
Sure.
And had the hot knife out, and he's like creating hills, more hills. I was doing it outside because of fumes in January when it was like 10 degrees, cutting it all up and everything, and then brought it in and painted it and make it look like it was spent time actually weathering it, because being a person with a geology degree, I was like, oh, it's got to look like hills. It's got to look like outcroppings and stuff, so going to town on it. So yeah, you can go from one extreme to the other.
Well, and I'm being repetitive here, but what I did find too is, I mean, sometimes you can be really detailed and make it durable, and still make it really pleasant to look at. I mean, you can use hard materials and stuff. And I mentioned epoxy sculpt. Like one of the reasons why I did that tower out of epoxy sculpt and not, let's say, dried clay or like other things, is that I knew that it wasn't going to last. That if I put on the table, any banging into it is going to cause it to crack and start breaking. Seeing like the undercolor of whatever material it is and the paint coming off, and like that's just all the things that happen to wargaming terrain in my experience. Whereas something like epoxy sculpt being like a green stuff kind of product, where it's harder in the end, I think, than green stuff, but it actually is really quite durable. Like it could take a beating. It's almost like something you would buy when you're done with it. That's hard. It can last. But a lot of times when you want to put a lot of extra details in with flock, I mean, flock is one of those things, and I know everybody's going to have their own method, and some people say they never lose any flock at all. But anytime I make trees or I do anything with any sort of material to create vegetation, you lose some of it, right? And then you have to eventually patch it up, and it just you can end up with a box of the stuff on the bottom, and so in the same way, when you start putting a lot of detail into terrain, sometimes it kind of crosses over into that diorama kind of board area, and it just gets damaged and you lose a lot of it pretty easily. And so in the end, I guess it just depends on how much trouble you want to go through. And actually maintaining it, not so much the first time, because most people are willing to put the effort in the first time, but then over time, how much time you want to put into it.
I have some of these hills over here that Mel and I, Stryker, put together. We had the hot knife and everything worked on. That we've spent all the time. We used latex paint, painted them with latex paint while it was still wet, threw the flock on top of it, and it would dry to it. And over time, it's slowly been wearing off. It's like you end up with, you play a game. It's like, wow, there's a little more flock on the table than there used to be. So, so it's one of those things where eventually you have to either reflock it, redo it, or just say, it's enough. It's time to retire that to the trash bin and make some new stuff. Or the wonderful thing is that I remember we had a big box of all the hills and stuff, and we stuck it was putting it in the trunk, and I just put it into the trunk to get ready to move it around. And my son is like, oh, everything's in the trunk, and he was right on top of it and everything like. like all the tall stuff just got snapped in half. I was looking
Oh
at it.
gosh.
Oh, and he's like, "So something?" And he looked at me and goes, "Something go wrong?" Yeah. It's like you just snapped half the hills in half. Now we got small hills.
Yep.
So you had that glue together and then fix stuff and type of deal. We got some comments.
Let's go to the comments before we move along.
All right, so good stuff. He's building his goblin recruit. Is this like a big goblin or just she scattered bits around?
I think David and Brad were talking about the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings kind of stuff, and so I think that that's what they're talking about.
Okay. Some Oathmark Saga, Middle Earth.
Well, I made it to our second topic for the first report, so I'm doing pretty good. Rye and Coke didn't last very long, but it wasn't that much.
So you're saying you need more rye with your Coke?
Well, I'm just going straight right now, as I said. That was just like an aperitif.
Yeah, Mel here, his brother always has him doing painting the projects for him. Mm-hmm. And his brother keeps adding to it. So it's dadding to it, but it's adding, de-adding. You need to de-add, not re-add. There you go. All right, it's time to get the basing done on my 20 ghouls. That sounds like a ghoulish job. And there was Dread. We talked about Dread Ball. Yes, Guild Ball has been discontinued. I think it ended in September. They finished it, or so August or September.
You sold your stuff off, Rusty, just in time.
Sold it all. It was a good time. Timing's everything. Then we got Dwayne. Yes, we're talking about terrain and painting projects. And then we had the infamous, I cut my finger. Hope it's not so. Is super glue, is it?
Yeah, some of those small cuts you can do.
Yeah, put super glue on it. Just a bunch of scratch. Just but a scratch. Yeah, the little Monty Python there. We have no Band-Aids in the house, so I use sticky tape. Well, that works. I've done that. It's like my daughter one time, he had used up all the Band-Aids, and she threw me a can. She took the lid off a can, and then she tossed me the can. And I was like, it's like, oh, somebody threw something to catch it, and I caught it by the lid, and sliced my finger open. I was like, bring me a Band-Aid. Well, we have no Band-Aid. Well, a little bit of paper on it and scotch tape around it. Glued it shut. I made clump foliage from pieces of soft foam, not like store-bought though.
Yeah, I do that too. If I think I know what you're talking about. If you take like foam that you would have, like let's say in an old like seat, cushion or something, you can put it in a blender, and you can blend it with paint and glue into foliage, and you can almost make and squeeze the paint into with let's say plastic gloves, and you can make your own clump foliage, and I do that as well. However, I find that it's not so much the foam, whether it be Woodland Scenics or that ultimately gives me a hard time. It's more what I use as an adhesive for the foam onto, let's say, the tree that you're going to use or something like that. Let's say if you're putting it on a tree, there's all different methods for doing it. I don't know of one yet that doesn't lose it eventually, but except for maybe to some degree, if you go to the extreme and use hot glue, that might be pretty good, like for at least some of it, unless the outer parts break off. But even that's kind of a pain because to hot glue an entire thing.
Yeah, it's like my trees I have, as you see my Battletech videos, where I'm always doing the pictures with my Battletech mechs. They that terrain that's on there, it's kind of supposed to be glued on. They use PVA glue. Well, eventually after a year it just came off. So I was like, we got that liquidy super glue. I just hold it up and go and it just like, she's not coming off. I put PVA glue in my paint now for flocking.
Yeah, that works good.
I put paint in my glue to make it green.
And then you put glue in your paint too.
Yeah. I bought one of those super cheap turf mats from China. I've been slowly building a static grass and flock collection from it.
Ends up all over the place.
But it's like a dog when it's shedding. It's like, it's spring, shed. Across the table. Just turn it over when you're done. Shake it enough. Scoop it all up. More flocking. Love making detailed terrain. I don't transport it. You will be. You will. All right. Love to add and I love what it adds to the experience. There you go.
When your miniature knocks the old antique phone off of the coffee table during the battle, it adds to the charm.
Dan does have a nice collection.
No, he does have beautiful, beautiful terrain. I definitely agree.
Working on some bolt action terrain right now. Hopefully there will be a video coming soon about it. I had to pre-paint Goblin from the Wardling series. I stripped her with acetone and got distracted. And all of the pats were spewed about around the desk. Okay. Dyslexic is coming to town here.
Yeah. What are the pats? What are pats?
We'll find out here.
Yeah, we'll find out. I know when you use pure acetone, that can be interesting stuff to work with. I mean, even though it's pretty strong, it's not, as I understand it, it's not overly toxic to the skin. I mean, but at the same time, you can really melt stuff with that, like plastics and stuff. And I've dumped it. I think it was pure acetone that I dumped on my cutting mat, and it'll take like all the lines and like everything like right off the surface real quick.
Yeah.
I mean,
this strips the paint very quick.
You said parts. Okay, but I should have gotten that. It's like Scrabble or something. And all the parts were strewn around.
Yeah, it's from the East Coast. It's not Pats. The Pats. A lot of Pats out here.
Yeah. And so
I just finished painting another 6 World War I Germans. Oh yeah. Just 8 to go and the army is finished. Then you have to, are you putting them in trenches, or is this Eastern Front? Good question. I don't think my wife would be happy if I put our old phone in
so I have
blender.
the retired blender for my hobby room. I actually do have an old blender, but I agree with you. Don't be using like your wife's juicer or blender or mixer.
Yeah, my wife would get really mad if she got her new Ninja, brand new Ninja. You know, when we retired the old blender and gave it to my son for his apartment, and it's like, yeah, here, son, what's this? It's a blender. Don't you need it? Oh, your mom bought a new one. It's like, and she complains to you about spending money. No.
Well, you know what goes into old car seats, right? It's you don't want that in your blender.
Sweat and other stuff. I bought a thrift store blender. Okay, that would make sense. And you buy one at like a DAV or something like that, where you can buy one for nothing. Where they're getting rid of them. Need to use rubberized horsehair for trees and flock. Very durable.
I have a pack of that, which, to be honest, in North America, I find it much harder to come by. It whenever I've gotten it, it's from the UK, and I have a pack that I've not used yet. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I need a reminder to try it. But I have this thing. I've had it for a couple of years to try horsehair trees, which I know has been used in the hobby for a really long time, but I haven't gotten around to making them yet. And so I think using the rubberized horsehair and then throwing some what is it, some flock on it, you know, just to give it some foliage look as well. Like it seems to be a good method. I agree. Yeah, that's probably, I've always had the experience of using clump foliage and making trees, but I think you're right, Dan. That's a good method. So I got it off eBay, and Dan can maybe mention because he's also in North America. But I do know it's a harder thing to find. It's not very easy. Coincidentally, they actually use rubberized horsehair in cushions and car seats too.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen rubberized horsehair before.
It's actually used in car seats, which seems to be the reoccurring theme here tonight. I don't know, but automobile seats. But the only thing is sometimes they use it in a way where they spray it with something, and it's not the same way you want to use it in the hobby, from what I understand.
Paul says Germans are late war painted for the 100 days. Yes, when the Germans had their offensive and they kicked out the trenches and were pushing on Paris, they were moving so fast they didn't have to build trenches. Then they lost steam. It's like, well, we've outrun our supply lines and they ran out of food. Like, we're too hungry. We can't go any farther. We surrender. Pretty much how it happened. True story. Hey, we caught up with all the comments.
Yes, that's some good comments.
Oh, yeah. All about flocking. Where do they get the flock out of this question? All right, so we know that we can throw old car seats into blenders.
Oh, it looks like Dan found some rubberized horsehair in the U.S. Put up the link. No. It took me a while, but I found some on eBay, but I did actually have to order it, I think, from the UK.
I'm going to have to say rubber prize.
And when you actually search for it online, you're going to find that it sometimes comes in ways that you don't want.
Rubberized. Oh, okay. Now I see what this stuff looks like. Looks like a scour pad.
And you kind of pull it and tease it and pull it apart a bit because it comes kind of a lot of times boxy, but then you like tease it out, I think.
Model hedges, trees, scenery, NO gauge, Etsy for only $10. Interesting. You can find it in Etsy shops. That's where I'm seeing most of it. And online fabric store. Interesting. Learn something every day in this hobby.
That's true.
We'll be putting up a video soon with your rubberized horsehair, showing it off. Just to let everybody know how to use it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not one of those things you see too often. I mean, unless you really look for it, as far as like people using it and stuff. There's so many different ways people make trees.
How many years I've been in this hobby? 30-something years, and that's the first time I've ever heard of rubberized horsehair.
Mm-hmm.
So if you never seen it or even used it, it's like, oh, okay, didn't know that existed. Uh-oh.
The robe is in the house.
D-robe. People use it for tree canopies. They have huge base plates with toothpicks standing up. Okay, then the horsehair is used as a lift. Okay, got it.
I first saw it on, I just really like some of the trees that Pancake Cake Pain, has on his channel. He had some Napoleonic with some trees, and I just asked him about it. I'm like, what is that? And he said it's rubberized horsehair. And so that's kind of where I got the idea from, just from watching his channel.
Okay. Yes, I've never picked that up. Obviously, it probably was on one of the videos I watched and just like, missed it. Does Luke's APS have a video on rubberized hair? That seems to like his kind of thing.
No idea.
Not a lot. It's life-changing. Rubberized. So you can just, is this like silly putty? You would just spend hours playing with it?
You want to see what it looks like? I can show you right here. I got a whole package of it. Hang on.
Okay. Which horse? Which tanks are you working on there?
I fought forever to get this stuff, and like everything in this hobby, I get it, and now 3 years later, I still haven't done anything with it. This is how much I've opened it to look at it.
Oh,
like,
wow,
yep.
that's huge.
So I'm like, yep, this is what I want. This is what I ordered, and I've not done anything with it since.
It's still in the package,
yeah. I've waited till now. This is for the Musty Wargamers. That's what I've opened it for this. But so it does kind of look like a Brillo pad, although I'd say because it's like horsehair, it's much more stringy. You know, you can see the hairs and stuff. But what I've seen people do is really just kind of break it apart and put it on stuff. You know, you rip it and then like, you tease it.
Furnace filter.
Well, I guess so, yeah, because it is like I can see through the light through this a bit, but not much. It's pretty thick, to be honest. But you're right, like it has that compressed. But from what I've seen, like people really tease this stuff apart. It looks nothing like this when you're kind of done with it. It really pulls apart, and you get kind of make it airy, and you can put it on top of your tree. It's got all these dots in it, which I'm assuming are like the rubber and the glue. Like when you look in real close, you know what I'll do? Let me just table down with it real quick, like I did before. This is better, I think. And I can actually focus in real close here too. You see this stuff? It's got all these little dots in it, but it's also really stringy too. But yeah, not too much to look at, but yeah, I've still not done anything with this stuff. I need to. I'm sure it's going to be really useful at one point to make some trees. I really do need to make some trees up, and so a lot of my stuff that I have needs to be freshened up from over the years.
We're still on the first topic. You haven't missed the reviews yet. we flip-flopped them tonight. We're changing pace.
I think actually on the Facebook page, I put the painting one first, and you must have put when you put up the video, which the other one first, and so that's where we kind of got our wires crossed.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Air conditioning filter. Yeah, exactly. That's what it looks like to me. That or a furnace filter. You get the high quality furnace filter. Used to be made of horsehair, but I believe it's now coconut fiber.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Makes sense.
They'd still call it that, but it's made from coconut fiber.
Yeah. It built some. Oh, Team Yankee. Okay, World War III stuff. So you're working on the Soviets or the Allied side. I can see why. Yeah, definitely why it would work. Yes, we're on the same topic yet. Trees are incredibly realistic, durable, and make excellent hedges as well. I made all my hedges out of furnace filter. Just like took balsa wood, laid it down, put toothpicks in it, and then just stuck it. And then I took liquid super glue and like went over top, and then just glued right to the toothpicks. And then I just took a slightly watered down PVA glue and just painted it on there, and it had a big box full of flocking and just like dumped it on it and it glued on. Worked out great. Yep, definitely good for bocage.
Yeah, so I can certainly do that, Dan, because I've already got all of those. I am actually looking at making some larger trees for my French Indian War stuff. Like next to my French Indian War houses, I want to get some ones that are 2 to 3 times the size of the woodland scenics that I have, and I'm gonna make them out of wire. And that, in a lot of ways, I have everything I need. I just never got around to it. But I'm gonna be making my own trees out of wire. I've been watching a lot of videos over the years about doing that, and then I'm gonna use the horsehair, I think, for those scratch ones. Those will be trees that I can have like almost on their own, you know, like next to a house, whereas they're not going to be like the whole woods for the French Indian War. But for those kind of other ones, I'll probably still try to use that horsehair, like you say, Dan. It's a good idea.
When I first read this, when it first was going down the thing, I said use woodland scenic armatures and added it to Palmer for hair. So.
Well, I don't know why you think of me when you think of hair, because that's not my normal association.
I'm not far behind you. Give me
it's okay.
I'll look like you probably in 10 years.
I used to hate having to find a new barber. I love not having to go through the process of wondering what a haircut's going to look like.
I haven't been to a barber.
I know. I'm my barber, and I know what it's going to look like every time.
That's the way I am. I cut my own hair. Doesn't have to look pretty. I haven't been live streaming the tanks so much lately, although it's been busy at work now. Mostly airbrushing stage for a while. Now, which tanks are you working on? Which nation? I'm just curious. But we're caught up with the all the stuff.
Cool. And well, why don't we go to the other topic then? Do you want to
introduce
this one?
Yeah,
I have a feeling you're, as a former or even current rule writer, you're going to have a lot more to say than me about this. But go ahead, I'll try.
Well, you always see it's like I just bought a new game. You can see it right there, Stalingrad 42. You're always, when you're looking at a new game and everything, you always look at. So instead of just picking it off the shelf, most of us nowadays, we're lucky enough we got the internet with YouTube, where everybody's going to be putting out like a review of the game and everything. And I have found it's like from way back in the day, you learn just like there's always the book reviews. You know, so-and-so did a book review. It was enlisted. And could you trust those book reviews or game reviews to actually be honest, or are they paid reviews type of thing? And that's the one. It's like versus the old days versus today. Are the reviews more honest nowadays, or are they still going to have those canned reviews that are actually paid to be reviewed? So what do you think?
Well, it's funny. When you said this topic, I didn't even really think of or know that was the rabbit hole you were going down, the monetization of of things and how that affects it. Because I was just wondering. I'll start with the way I thought. I thought it was more like when you see various reviews that pop up on YouTube, like from bigger channels that just are geared to reviewing games. Like they get the stuff for free, they get a copy, they review it. You never really see the game played on the channel because they're really mainly just reviewing another one. Like when another one comes out, and I see those. My thought was like, I think for the most part, from the YouTube perspective, and I'll talk about forums and blogs too. I think that everything's always helpful in the sense that you're getting information. What I think is sometimes when people don't play the game, but they actually just use their experience as somebody that's a war gamer and then just quickly kind of glance through it and then just review it. What it really is more of a first glance. Like I find most of the videos are first glances at it, and it's not really helpful in the sense of telling you intricate details as to why you might like this game better than a game you already play of a similar kind, but it is good at showing you something you don't have in front of you that will say, like, this game is a mass combat game and it uses command and control, and like it uses this and it does this and it does this, and you maybe recognize these things they're talking about and you're like, okay, that's the style of game this is, and it gives you a frame of reference. Or they'll say it's a skirmish style game and it uses a randomized activations and like all of these things we're used to hearing, and you can kind of hear the things that you're that you'll recognize to kind of categorize it for you. However, I think that the YouTuber videos that are, it doesn't have to be a smaller channel, but oftentimes the people that are a bit more focused on something, like let's say somebody that's been playing Black Powder for a year or 2 years or more, does this like review of Black Powder, like maybe when the second edition came out, but they played the first and they know it really well. They can, in that kind of review, as somebody that's really focused on it, provide a lot of info that may make you decide whether you're going to play that game versus a different game. Like they can give you the intricate details. So I think it kind of depends a little bit on the reviewer, and maybe it kind of goes to what you're saying a little bit, is the first sort of person that I was talking about that maybe just does the first glances all the time, and they oftentimes will get the reviews for free if they're a larger channel. And in those cases, usually they want to be somewhat respectful, in the way they provide it to not completely trash it,
Yeah.
because they've been giving it, but hopefully they're being at least neutral. And I think many of them are, in saying, not over puffing it up, you know what I mean? Like selling it, just giving you the information to sort of like let you decide if it's a style of game you even want to look into. And I think that's usually the way it kind of comes out. Now, where I think it is a little bit different in my experience is the bloggers off of YouTube. When you actually get into people's personal pages where they own the game and they just write it in text and do like pictures in a blog, they can, in that environment, in my experience, they're oftentimes very truthful, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and when it comes to I don't know, maybe I'm not right on that. But I get that sense that in the blogging, it's a little bit less social media like, in the sense, because it's been around longer than like Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that, and it's not exactly, doesn't get the same traffic either as these days. But I find that when they're writing an article, like it tends to be a little bit more put together and at times informative, and it can be helpful, even to the level that you're talking about, a little bit more trustworthy, I think, in that sense. So that's like my initial thought. What are your thoughts?
It's kind of like the same kind of rabbit hole, I believe, is that there have been many times, being an individual that you're going back to the 80s, and a lot of times where you're looking in magazines and you'll see, oh, this was reviewed as, one of the best games ever. You go, it's like, oh, okay, that sounds like a great game. And you go to the shop and you buy it. And it's like, because all you had was a magazine telling you these things, because you didn't have internet at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was what you had to go off of, and you buy it and you start, it's like, I got had. It's like, well, this is crap. Put it bluntly, it's like, oh, that was a waste of $30. At the time, $30 in the 80s was still a chunk of money.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got into the 90s, where we started getting the internet, and you started seeing a lot of the blogs, like you're discussing, where you go to the forums, and that became the big things. And you got a lot of honest opinions from people that would play stuff, and you would look at it and go, oh, okay, that looks interesting. To say, oh, this is what I like about it, this is what I hated about it, or this was just crap, this was not crap, or type of deal. And it just, nowadays we have the internet of the YouTube channels. And when I was looking at that game right there,
mm-hmm.
I don't know how many videos I watched. And it's like, I've seen it, and makes it look interesting, because I went to the GMT website, looked at it, it's like, okay, they have their rule books, you can peruse them right there, just as a PDF, because that's, not the counters or anything. So so I kind of looked at it. It's like, there could be some interest there. Kind of look at the maps, but I'm going to see what people think about it playing it. And I watched a bunch of videos, and it's like, okay, this person kind of likes it. This person sort of, not quite their wheelhouse. And you get enough opinions on something, and it ended up like, okay, I'm pretty hyped. I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to buy this. And it was Black Friday sale, so I bought it. And next, it's there. And it's like a couple days later, and it was shipped. So it's like I'm happy. It's sitting on the table underneath plexiglass right now. I just need to spend more time setting it all up.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think about, let's say, when we went from playing Warhammer Fantasy, and then when the Age of Sigmar came out, and you had some of these bigger channels that people were playing, like say 40K. And then it's like, oh, now I can play fantasy now because it's really easy. And it's like, oh, they're hyping it up and saying this Age of Sigmar game is so wonderful and awesome. And they're hyping it. You end up finding out is that they were, like you said, they were given stuff free to review it and then put the hype out. And then just like, okay, some people started playing. It's like, this is crap. This is not fantasy. The people that wanted to play fantasy, like, oh, yeah, okay, maybe this is in your wheelhouse, but some of us are like, you're lying to us. Yeah. Basically, we can't trust. Like, some of those channels I used to sort of watch and trust because they were 40Kers and stuff, and I was like, no, it's like you burned me on this. I'm like, sorry, I'm flushing you, type of deal. So it's like, are all reviews honest? Because there's too many channels out there that get free stuff, and like you said, oh, I got this free stuff, I'll do a glowing report on it. This is kind of a flip through, and it's like, oh, I've seen this or this, and then they'll put it on the shelf and not actually play it. So if someone coming along and they're like, oh, that looks great and everything, but are they giving you an honest, really honest example of what that game is? Because they're not really playing it.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, as someone, I've not even really talked about this on my channel, but you know about this, Rusty. Like, I've gotten rid of monetization on my channel. I've gotten rid of likes and dislikes recently. Like, I've gotten rid of all of it, and I'm just doing a hobby channel. Like, I've decided for myself personally, and I don't want to hijack this discussion, but to actually exit the YouTube program of like how I need to do things and just go back to the basics and use it for my personal updates and just get rid of all of it. So having said that, as someone that had been monetized and as someone that has been given things to review for free, I have felt the pressure of not insulting a small company, but then also trying to be honest at the same time. And, it is a delicate balance. And I think you have to sort of let the product speak for itself, without necessarily downing it or over puffing it up, I think in that kind of situation. But I do think you're right that if you're going to, there are some people that deal with that all in different ways, right? And on their review or on their presentation, and as to whether or not you feel that is the person becoming a salesman, or are they just showing it and what you see is what you get, and sometimes as the viewer, you're going to have a different impression of that, as I think you're kind of saying. Yeah.
It definitely is. Like, when I'm looking at something, I'm trying to find the most honest opinion and truthful opinion as possible to wrap my head around before I start forking out money. And this day and age when a lot of people are not working as much, money's hard to come by. You got to tighten the belt a little bit, and I would like to see honesty.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. When I was talking about the person that, in this case, I was saying people that get it for free, but then they only show like a flip through, but they can't really do like a real review, like something that you can really absorb, like a level of detail.
Yeah.
I have done that myself, like all the time, actually. Like, every time I get a new set of rules, I will pull it out and show it oftentimes. And usually I will put review in the title, and maybe in retrospect I shouldn't have, but I would just say this is just a quick flip through. Like I'll open it up. I just got this, just want to show you the book. And sometimes I'm just reviewing the quality of the book and just the basics. And it really is just letting people know like, hey, this is out there. This is the basic style of game. But most of these videos, like most people would actually say, I'm not that experienced. I've never played it yet, you know, like those kind of things, but just take a look at it. After playing Musket and Tomahawks for years, I've had times where I've provided reviews and commentary, and even like I have one video that's like detailed tactical discussion, you know, where I'm talking about like really fine details in the rule set, about how you can split fire and like some really kind of things that you don't normally use in every game. And that kind of information, like I don't provide those videos often, you know, but that kind of information, when I see people do those kinds of videos, it's when you played the game a lot. And that's where you can really sort of glean a lot of like kind of granular detail from a rule set. But otherwise, I mean, it's just really kind of like unboxing videos, which is kind of what I see people in the comments talking about, which maybe we could go to some of the comments. There's a lot of discussion going on there, you know, on this topic. But I think that, you know, unboxing videos aren't exactly the same thing as in-depth reviews.
Yeah, because I do unboxing, you know, or flip throughs, because you know, it's like if I get something, I'm going to do a quick flip through and say, oh, this is what it looks like, but I haven't had a chance to even read it or play it myself and give an honest opinion with it. And so it's like, here's what's in it, but I can't give you an opinion on it. So it's not even a opinion piece. Now, if I'm saying review or something, it's like I've played it, I've used it, and that's my opinion on it. It's like good or bad. Let's see, where's the
like I said, lots of comments. It's hard to find the top.
Okay, here we go. So the last thing. Oh, there we go. Here's the last thing. I think he's talking about that. I was asked which ones he was painting. I trust my fellow YouTubers. Now there's the group of us that actually, if you got somebody that's going to doing review and actually play, you know that they're playing it, I can respect their opinion more, good or bad, because they've actually taken the time to play the game.
I think the YouTube community is great. And in most cases, even when you have a large named channel, like let's say anywhere is above 10,000, you know, that's getting the game for free and doing lots of these flip throughs. I don't think they're anything but well-intentioned with their video. You know, I don't think they're trying to deceive people for the most part. I think the question, like you had said, Rusty, is just where the politeness and the neutrality, how far it comes into it, you know, because you got the actual rule set for free, and whether or not you're kind of giving the goods, so to speak.
Because I watch a lot of wilderness survival type videos where people get equipment and everything. And then one of the guys I watch, he says, I refuse to get any stuff from any manufacturer. Because if I'm going to get it, I buy it myself, and I'm not being given something to sell myself. It's like I'm doing it myself. This is on me. My own honest opinion. That's I like that. I like watching that guy's channel. Schiller's got a shill. There's a few Schillers out there. And if you have to play a game 3 times before you can do an honest review, yeah, it's like, to be honest with you, it's like there's still games that I play BattleTech a lot, and
is a lot since the early 80s or the late 70s. Like, what do you mean?
I can be pretty honest when it comes to playing the game. I give an honest opinion.
Kind of curious, when we say BattleTech, is it just us that drinks, or do people actually at home drink too?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, if it has to be Coke and water, I don't know.
BattleTech.
You're a guzzler. I'm a slipper. I would agree with that, yes. definitely. That's about the playing it a few times. You know, it's like I can't give an opinion on something unless I actually do it myself enough times.
You know, it's funny. This isn't a game, but you know, I got this new light setup for my hobby table, and I'm like, I wanted to show this, and I've had people that want to see it, but to be honest, I was like, I need to paint. I want to paint like a project with it first, and I want to put up a couple of videos with the lighting from the light too, and I want to do some stuff with it first before I actually show it, because I feel as if all I'm really going to be doing is just showing you it, you know, but not really giving you a lot of info, you know, beyond that. And so it's the same kind of thing. Like I'm almost hesitant to show things at times unless I've used it for a bit now. And that's why I haven't done the review on it yet.
Yeah, I know you turned it on there when you were showing your down, or was that a different light? Was that the actual light that?
It is, and I have it it's set at all different percentages, but I have it. I used that when I showed you the miniatures just now on the channel.
Okay, so that's why it was like.
Yeah, well, and that's only at 40%. I mean, I'm not gonna review the light, but if I actually turn this thing up, it's like standing next to the sun, and then I can dial it down quite a bit.
It's like cover your head.
Yeah, exactly.
Glare.
No, this thing is powerful, but it's also adjustable.
That's why I don't like calling them reviews, but overviews if I'm going to go over the basics of the game. It's like, yeah, that's an excellent point. So if I'm not reviewing it, I was like, all right, here's some aspects of it. I'm giving you some overviews that, touching, the basics of the system. It's like if you're doing a full-on review, it's like this is how this aspect of the game. This is how this aspect of the game. And I can see where this could break down, or this could break down, or this could be good or exploited. That's an in-depth review. But I'm not interested in channels that only open games and I never see them playing. I'd rather see an unboxing by someone that will play the game eventually. Like, it's like if you're unboxing it, what's the intention? Are you just unboxing to look at it? It's like, ooh, look at the cool box, and then you never see them play. It's like, that was a problem I had with some board game channels, was that you look at them and all they do is unbox it, show the contents, but do you ever play it? You never see them playing it. It's like,
yeah.
And board games can get expensive. That said, I've had a few unboxings of games where I never get to them, but I try not to do that often. Yeah, there's been some games where I've showed them off. It's like, oh, this is the game we plan on doing, and we never play the game because people walk away and lose interest in doing something really quickly. What's in the box? Yeah, that's the unboxing. I don't mind unboxings because that's what it is. It's just an unboxing. I really hate reviews of rules that have never been released. Oh.
And why is that? Is it because somebody's got it and you don't have it, or like you can't get it at that time, or is it because they haven't really haven't had a chance to? It's so new that they haven't had a chance to play it yet.
Well, there's early release stuff. You get people that will get an early release of the game, like it's like, all right, it's going out on the market. It will be released in 6 months, but this individual has the box set or the game, and they're playing with it because they were a play tester, and so they get a version of it sooner before everybody else. And you're like, what good does that do me? It's like, all right, so
what's so special about them?
Yeah.
Why are they so special?
Almost always the case with reviewers. Yeah. Agree with David. I'd rather see them play than occasionally. Yeah. It's like, what's the purpose? Like the game back here, the month of December, imagine this game back here is going to be on my table. So there's not going to be any games other than what's sitting on that table for the next month, most likely, because they're talking about 30 turns, and if I do a turn a day, that's a month. And you remember when I did my other two games, the Empires and Alliance and the Guns of August game. I did a turn a day, and I filmed it, what happened in it. And it took a month to play a game. So
how long did it take you to play the turn on average?
The turn?
Yeah. Without the filming and all that, like if you're just playing it, how long does it take?
30 minutes to an hour, depending.
Okay. That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, because you're playing both sides yourself.
Yeah.
And you also have to, as the game is early in the game, turns take longer because there's more stuff to do. And if somebody starts steamrolling somebody else, then there's less to do. It's just a diminishing return type thing. I don't mind if they get free stuff. Just let me know that you got it free. And let me know what you like and don't like. It gets back to the old thing. It's like, well, la-di-da, you got some free stuff, and thanks for rubbing it in our face.
Rusty, the moment you start getting free stuff, I want to see what you're saying.
Well, look, I got some free stuff. Never got free stuff before.
No, you're gonna be like, I got free stuff, but
thank you very much.
I'm gonna just tell you what it is. This is awesome.
I made the big leagues, man. I got noticed. Opening a box then never playing a game is more realistic to me. That's what I get what you're saying. It's like a lot of individuals will spend. I have to be honest. There's been times where I bought a lot of games out there, miniature games, and never got to play them because you talk to your group. It's like, I'm going to buy this. Let's try it out. You buy it, and it's, we don't feel like trying it.
Well, this is a realistic review. This box is amazing quality. When I open it up, I love the smell. Yeah. It comes with a lot of cool doodads.
Oh, that new box smell.
And it slides into my bookshelf really well.
I made room right here. Congratulations. One of the things I like about your gameplay videos, Russ, is I get to evaluate myself while you play. Yeah, so you're looking at. So I am playing it. It's like me playing a game for the first time, and I'm seeing the pitfalls. I'm seeing. It's like, oh, I could play it this differently next time I play it, or I could play it this way. And if I spend enough time not playing it and come back, then I totally forgot how I played the first time. But at least I'm trying to play the game. It's like, why buy something if you're not going to use it? If you're not a war gamer, unless you own a lot of boxes that you opened and never used. A lot of miniatures that you've painted or not painted or assembled and not painted, and they sit in boxes with that hope of one day they'll see the light. Another reason why I don't do reviews, because what you may like may not be something I like. Well, it's true. It's like what I like about certain games. Like there's certain things, like say in BattleTech, I like. And I find that it's like by doing my BattleTech series, I'm like almost 200 episodes in and on now. And I have my play style that I like. But others will look at it and go, I'm not sure that's the way I don't see it that way. It's like, well, that's because I'm going it from my point of view of how I like to do it. Well, how you play it is totally different. And that's why it's a game, Everybody has their opinion. And when you go throwing dice at each other across the way, then we'll see who actually wins that day. Okay, that, and I may like the concept, but you see that the playability as a drawback. Is it too easy to play or really complex and hard to play?
Or sometimes maybe just the idea and like what they were trying to go for is good, but then maybe when you actually play it, it's not maybe it's practical for a game or something like that. Because reenact like a game and reality are not the same ththing always, right? I mean, even though we're trying to do simulations, I realize we have a lot of people that are into the history side tonight, in the comments too. And like simulation is what we oftentimes try to achieve, but game is not always the same thing, right? And if you wanting to, and we've talked about that too, like if you have something where it's asymmetrical, like the rules, maybe that's good if that's what you're shooting for. For some people that are looking for more of a symmetrical kind of game, it may not be practical, something like that.
Yeah, because it's really hard to create reality on the table. You're trying to take a moment in time or create something that feels sort of like realism, but it's impossible. You can't give the terror or the dirt and the grime and the blood and guts. It's, screams of horror that you have in reality put on, because it's a distractive, concept for a lot of people to even think about.
Mm-hmm.
And
sometimes you don't want to either, right?
No. All right, come here. It's like we're playing the game. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna slap you alongside the head with this hammer, and it's like, let's go. It's like, that's my war hammer, and no, but but when you got you're trying to put that complexity into a game, it can break down because you spend so much time in trying to create the phases of a battle that you spend all that time just like, okay, at this time we got to go do this. This time we got to do this, and it's like, and then it just bogs down. And instead of, then you have the other side where, all right, you throw a die, I throw a die. Oh, game over. You got a better one. Let's go. That's it. That to the oversimplified version.
Wasn't that in second edition Warhammer 40K the virus bomb?
Yes.
Where you could basically die before you started.
Yep.
I've launched the virus bomb. You don't get your turn.
Or was it in 5th edition 40K or 6th edition? I can't remember. Where you had one of the things where you could have the plague go across the table. Type of thing. It's like, well, I just lost half my Imperial Guard army because it just died of the virus. Darn Nurgle, you suck. But a couple of my friends that review swords and armor contact the company to discuss thoughts privately with the producer, and then would ask if they want a full review or if they prefer another chance. No, I can see that. It's like you go to the designer and say, hey, this is mucked up bad.
So like they're saying that you guys can change your rules and then I'll do my review later.
Yeah. You guys really screwed the pooch on this.
Well, I guess if it's early enough on, you could give them, they have an opportunity to edit it before it's been published or something.
Yeah.
That's probably makes sense.
Yeah. That happens a lot though. It's like in reality, you're almost becoming a tester in a way. It's like, yeah, this works great, except for this. Could you look at this again? And so then if you are a tester, and then it's like, oh, make these changes and bring it back to market. But typically, if we're talking about gaming on a table, that's really hard because it's already out, and then you're talking stuff that can be changed in the 2nd or 3rd edition or something.
Yeah.
Which is fine, if you're playing like Games Workshop stuff. Just wait 2 years; it's going to change. Interesting. Okay, I drink when you talk about
Nattletech.
Nattletech, yeah. Nattletech. Usually water. I drink lots of water.
And as much as you won't believe me when I say this, we're not actually out to promote drinking alcohol. So people can drink whenever they want. Even guests on the show don't have to drink alcohol when they come on. They usually will bring something and call it their musty drink.
Well, the reason we drink because we spend a lot of time talking, or we get dry. Get it? And when my throat starts getting dry, and I just have to bring in BattleTech, and you got to drop your drink. So it's a self-defense mechanism.
And I am, I'm actually, I've adopted, since we had a show with Dwayne from Plastic Crack Gaming that went a record-breaking show length on this show, and I actually went over 2 drinks. I've basically set a 2-drink limit for this show.
2 Long Island iced teas and we're done.
Like I don't do more than 2 drinks. on this show, as much as it may seem. Now, what's in those drinks varies, but it's never more than 2.
And definitely with Paul here, when he lost one of his he had one kidney taken out because of cancer. Definitely alcohol and sugar drinks, which make your kidneys work overtime. You don't want to touch this stuff. Totally understand it. Makes sense. I don't drink sugar drinks myself. I stay away from the sugar. I'm diabetic, so. S42 is a big game. Yes, it is. It is huge. It's not as big as the Empires and Alliance board, because my Empires and Alliance board would put underneath the plexiglass, and it would be sticking out on both sides about that much. This one, just the sheet of plexiglass just goes over it perfectly. It's the perfect size. And I'm like, all right, that works. Oh yeah, Normandy. That's another one I've been looking at, is Normandy 44. I think that is now going to be re-released. It's in the P500 group, I do believe. That's something I want to get my hands on sometime each day during Normandy. I need to chill out on the typing here. I'm kind of hogging the. What are you trying to say? Shut up, keep typing.
We're gonna have to start separating the kids here.
Yeah, they're going at each other. Gentlemen, no fighting in the Musty Wargamers room. We'll have to. You take your die. You take your die. Take 6 paces and roll off. There you go. High to high wins the duel. That's how we solve the problem, right? 2 things I look for in a game review: command and control, and shooting resolution. Simple is better for me. Might sound like possibly a future topic. Simple or command and control?
Well, actually, I don't think he's saying that it's an either or. I think he's saying that simple to him is having those 2 focuses.
Yes.
Yeah. But the simple versus complex gaming is a matter of taste. And I would say that I at times like both. I like games, and what I call simple and what somebody else calls simple are totally different things potentially, meaning somebody could like something much more complex and it could be simple to them, and to me it could be complex. Like it just depends on your person, your personality and things.
Yeah,
but
it's like, am I blurry or something? It looks like
your camera's a little blurry tonight. I'm not sure if you swung something in front of it. Now it's worse. Now it looks like at me after 4 drinks.
There
you go.
4 drinks. I got a little fisheye going on.
I think I see Rusty there.
No, if you want to talk about this, Scott and I used to play a lot of squad leader, and that could be, you want to go down the rabbit hole with complexity. That thing would just drive you nuts at times. Trying to play that game, it's like, where's the rule book? There you go.
But then, it just depends on the person, right? Like we've talked about. I haven't played it, but from what I understand of it, the Star Trek game, right?
Starfleet Battles.
Starfleet Battles. My understanding is that's an example of a game that's actually has a lot of detail.
Oh yeah.
And the detail could be considered complexity by some, like, the amount of looking up in charts and things like that. Some people really thrive on that. Some people are fine to take a half hour to sort of hash out a 30-second maneuver, in game time. You know what I mean? Like, or like if you imagine it happening, it's like probably happened in 30 seconds, but you take a half hour to figure out everything as to how it happened. And then others don't really want to spend their time doing that. Like they just want to get to the endpoints and tactical pieces, of the overall grand scheme of it, and so it just really depends on the person, right?
Yeah, definitely.
In my mind, it does.
Well, I've playing. Let's say BattleTech, for example. I played a game where I controlled up to 36 mechs at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Just me. Had no problem with it. It's like they look at, you got some individuals that have a hard time controlling one.
You know,
and
when we first started the channel, you said it was 12 mechs, and then 2 years in, it was 24, and now it's 36.
It's been up to 36. A big game.
Okay.
So it's like, it's not a, it's just how your brain can wrap around something and manage. It's like manage chaos. That's more or less how you look at it.
Clark says, hello, Clark. He says, I need to start setting the warnings for these streams. I'm not sure if he means that, if he means warnings to know when they're on.
Starting.
Okay. or parental warnings.
Oh, man, I just got a thing from Clark. I like the word of Blake, shadow divisions. Okay. So, yeah, it's say advanced squad leader. I think Paul mentioned that. Now when you're playing the advanced squad leader or Starfleet battles on the captain's level, etc. When you start adding in, it's like, that's why I've always said, like, a lot of games need to have layers. It's like you've got your basic, then your medium, and then advanced rules. You just keep adding on what you want to make it more complex or simple. So if people want to spend all their time playing the simpler version, fine, more power to you. If you want a little more meat potatoes, throw that in there. If you want, just to grind your brain up and spit it out with lots of hard work, there you go. And that's I think we're getting a little off the beaten path with talking about reviews and everything. But
well, I think we've transitioned into the nth hour part of our show.
The winding down for our
after discussion.
Our last 15 minutes of the show, as Paul liked to say here, our brains are small and we like to shove lots of stuff into it. So I've always said, just like, we have a certain capacity for controlling certain things. And then when we start overloading it, things get kicked out to manage that. And certain individuals, that may be speech, it could be thought, lizard brain starts kicking in. I like lots of charts to roll on during a campaign. I think that's supposed to be phase. Yes, phase. There we go. I don't mind charts at all. Charts are fine, but because that is something you can reference to. Especially that's something you need to talk about. Let's say if you got a rules review or something going on, and people will look at it and say, "Hey, this is the charts. This is how you do this or you do that." I like to see that, how that works. That type. Otherwise, it's just you're looking at the Venn diagram or something. Simple rules. Simplicity is something. How do you, that's an interesting, we talked about a subject before, was that, is simple really simple, or is it just designed well enough that it sounds simple, that people can catch on easy, the concepts, even though it could be hard to play, but it's well written, well organized, that it will flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, playing the squad leader right now, the original. Oh yeah, the old good stuff from way back in the day. The little minor box sets and stuff of it. Oh, we got Alan in the house.
Hey there, Alan.
I just watched one of his update video. It was like, you did make it to the end of the video, didn't you?
Yes, I saw it too.
Yeah, definitely.
We were a little late this week. Okay, after the holiday, kind of announcing, I think.
Well, the big thing was I forgot. I did my video today. If some people caught the video, normally I do it like a day before, 2 days before. And it's like, oh, I got to put a video out today. to announce that we're doing a show tonight. And I did the video, and then after the video was over, it was uploaded and everything, and I realized I forgot to mention the show. It was like right over my head. Lizard brain kicked in. Original squad leader man. I don't like the advanced squad leader vision too much detail. And definitely there is a ton of detail in the advanced squad leader, to the point where it's like, I'm growing my soldiers here. It's like water, lots of detail. Campaign rules, definitely. That's something that a lot of games neglect, I think, is setting up campaigns. Because campaigns or narrative play, setting up a scenario for a battle, which a lot of historical players do, because you're playing a battle and you're reenacting a battle, so there's the narrative aspect of it is set up. But you get into a lot of sci-fi games, you're just throwing down a lot of times.
I think like with your Gaslands, you're kind of essentially doing a campaign with your seasons, right? And I think adding continuity to your gameplay over time is fun for groups, right?
Yeah.
And it also kind of, well, it can be good and bad, because like we all have heard about some rules where they do campaigns, and I guess this is another subject where you get trapped by the campaign. Like you have a couple of bad games, and then like you basically feel like you can't wait till the campaign's over, because you can't get back even if you do well. But then there's other ones that are designed well enough, and it's fun, I suppose.
I feel like our last Gaslands campaign that we had, the person that was in last place was the person that was saying, we need to start a new season.
That's right.
Because the person leading was 5 times many points as he had.
Okay. Yeah.
So he was like, let's start a new season. Because it was like, this is no more fun for me anymore, because I'm just sitting there being the target of everybody beating up on me. I like to watch games through to see if I won a game. That helps me, because more than a review. Almost never bought a game because of a review. Exactly. That's why I like about watching people actually play the game. Is if you get one where they're actually moving stuff around, showing the gameplay going on, that really helps out, because that gives you an idea how it's going to work out, and if it works into your favor. And a basic review is just giving you an idea if that might be something that you like. Combat Commander Europe is a tabletop simulator. You need to get on there. Combat Commander Europe. Never heard of that one. Late to the game. Welcome to the party, pal. Got to watch that Christmas show. Bruce Willis, Nakatomi Plaza. Die Hard.
Looks like Chris from Walkabout Games has joined in. Hello, Chris.
I can't get TTS to work on my computer. It's too old.
Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah. That's one of the problems I've had in the past. Do not like too many modifiers. Well, you don't like, as like I think about when we first started playing Warhammer 40K back in this Rogue Trader 2nd edition. It was all about the modifiers. More gifts for Christmas. Like you're going to have the infamous 3D printer making gifts, or is this actually assembling gifts? I think when someone reviews a game, they go through it. Then the next video they have out is a playthrough. Definitely, it's like, okay, this is a review. This is, I think a review is more or less your initial thoughts on something. But if you don't follow up on gameplay or actually playing the game, it's like you're just kind of going through the motions. All right. I would want to like and play campaign games, but I usually end up with only playing 1 or 2 games and moving on. There's always, is that the shiny syndrome? You know, the shiny goldfish syndrome, where the shiny thing gets us attracted to something, moving on to something else.
Well, and I wonder too, bigger groups, you know, or like somewhat sizable groups are pretty good for campaign games that meet regularly. But if it's just sort of between 2 and 3 people playing, or one, for solo gaming, it's not always as attractive, because you can just essentially just jump around, right? Like, like there's attractiveness to try something else, and maybe not as much of a reason to kind of come back.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. Is we have a tendency to get bored quickly, possibly with something, and want to move on to find ourselves a little more entertainment and enjoyment. Mm-hmm. And solo play, it's fun in a way, but it's not the same as playing against somebody, because when you're playing against somebody, you're not sure exactly what they're going to do. It's kind of hard to compartmentalize your head. It's like this side of the brain will do this side, and it's like it's not going to talk to that side. Mm-hmm. But I always find that this hand always knows what this hand's doing, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's a different mindset for sure.
Yeah. Group games a lot. That's the playing games with, as a group, that's the social networking of it all. I've had many people tell me that they brought a game because they wanted to watch me play, and frankly, that's very satisfying. Mm-hmm. Well, there's something to be said that, when you see somebody playing something, you're selling. It's like when I used to be in sales. You're selling the excitement. And that's what you're doing with your YouTube channel. If you're showing a video and you're playing it, you're become a salesman for that, and you're selling excitement. And if people see you having fun and enjoying something, they want to get part of it. That's like, mm-hmm. Everybody wants to join on the bandwagon. Everybody wants to be part of on the winning team. Combat Commander Europe is the best board game from GMT. I've seen, I've never actually looked into that one. Bat reps tend to go too long. I'm doing experts to keep the video shorter. Yeah, it's like when I do mine, it's turn recaps. Mm-hmm. Because, we've had the discussion before in our group where they said, well, why don't you just
set the camera up
and broadcast, and tape it and then go for it. It's like, well, if we're playing 6 hours or 4 hours, I don't have enough memory card or battery life, for that matter. It's like my phone can only hold so much.
Yeah.
Camera can only hold so much.
Well, and different audiences want different things too. Like, it's one thing if you're dedicated and watching, sometimes like 9 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes might be the most you can get somebody to do. But if they're painting, some people like an hour and a half just to sort of see what's going on. It just kind of depends on the situation, I think. Definitely. So I think we've kind of covered, we're approaching the 2-hour mark here for the show. I think we've covered our 2 topics pretty well for tonight.
Yeah. Yes, lots of gigs. And try to render a 2, 3, 4 hour video put together. Ooh, that's a lot of time.
I think we've done what was the topic again?
Rules reviews.
Rule reviews pretty well.
Woe reviews.
Yeah. So, and when is a miniature or project finished?
2 topics, good topics. We had a lot of input tonight we're up to 10 people here. They're watching the show tonight, and we just about ready to hit the 2-hour mark. Well, let's see, 2 weeks. will be the 17th, I believe.
Probably makes sense as long as you're good for it, just to do that before the holiday.
Oh yeah, I'm good. I don't have anything planned. I think the next. Well, I don't think I'm even going out of town or anything this year. So it's just going to be a staycation holiday.
Good deal. We'll have a before holiday special.
Oh, we'll have to break out it's a fragile,
Yeah, there you go. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks.
Holiday leg.
Thanks for all the comments. Great, awesome audience as usual for the show. We appreciate it. I hope Becca's finger is not there's no nerve damage in that cut.
And you still have it. It's not attached by a hanging meat or anything.
My assumption is it's okay because he stayed on the show when he's talking. I seriously don't want to be making light of it if it has been bad.
I'm typing with my fingers.
I'm on my way to the hospital. Awesome.
Well, he really enjoyed cutting his finger, so he's good.
All right. Well, take care, everybody.
All right. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks, and nice chatting with all of you. And we'll see you on the channels around the different videos. See you in 2 weeks over in Palmer's channel.
Take care.
All right. Good night, everybody.